am 16 years old and I am a Filipino Canadian. My mom is from the Philippines and my dad is Italian. Since I was a little girl, I had always wanted to dance. Where most little girls were taking up ballet, I joined a dance group, a Filipino dance group. I started with Folklorico at the age of 10. I was the youngest. And I remember looking at the older girls thinking, see, one day I'll dance just like them.
Folklorico Filipino Canada, a 30-year tribute.
My name is Valerie Velardo. Folklorico Filipino Canada celebrates its 30th anniversary this year. That's a lot of years. And we have asked some of our current as well as older members to help commemorate this fantastic achievement. Without further ado, let's have Wendy Arena, co-founder of FFC, share what Folklorico is about and its role in the Canadian Mosaic.
1968. Wendy Bernabe, a young immigrant from the Philippines, arrives in Toronto, hoping for a new life. She quickly turns to her fellow countrymen for company and social integration. 4 years later, in an effort to promote Philippine culture in Canada, Wendy, along with a few friends, starts a folk dance group.
What we wanted to do is basically to preserve our culture and tradition in the Canadian society. It's really difficult to say, what is a Filipino sometimes, because we have so many foreign influences in the country. I really feel very proud in a sense that we actually are fulfilling the mission of the group or the objective of the group, because basically we really want to preserve, educate, promote, and maintain this Filipino identity through song and dances.
Now, there are 4 main cultural influences in the dances that we showcase. These are Barrio, Maria Clara, Igrot, and Muslim. This is really quite unique for such a relatively small country like the Philippines to have such a diverse heritage. Why don't we listen to what Tita Wendy has to say about this?
Normally when Folklorico performs, we always divide our suite into 4 suites because these are the different influences in our culture. The Igrot are the northern part of the Philippines. They believe in the spirits, like everything has a spirit, like is dominated by the spirits. So their dances and their songs are more to please the gods. Maria Clara is more Spanish. It's the strong Spanish influence in Philippine culture. Philippines was under Spain for almost 350 years. So the strong European influence is very much predominant in those dances. So that's where the waltzes, the pandango, the mazurkas has become Filipinised. The barrio dances is more like the rural part of the Philippines, like the farming areas. Like in the rural part of the Philippines, what we call the rice-growing countryside of the Philippines, where they celebrate a lot of fiestas. Like the Philippines is the only Catholic country in Asia. And a lot of our festivals are in relations to the saints. The southern part of the Philippines are predominantly Muslims. Indo-Malayan culture is very, very strong in the south. And their dances and their songs and their costumes are also very, very much different from the northern part of the Philippines.
I'm actually learning quite a lot. But how did it all start? How did the group get to where it is today?
In 1972, Wendy is introduced to folk dancing during a church function. She then meets Mina Aldridge while delivering what would become the first Folklorico performance.
She was the one who taught us the basic of folk dancing. I myself wasn't really into folk dancing at that time, but because my roommates were in, they said to me, come, you should come with us because you will be left in the apartment by yourself if you don't come with us. So I just tag along with them.
2 years later, Folklorico receives a letter patent from the province of Ontario and is incorporated as a dance company.
We felt that we can get grant of being registered and incorporated.
So it wasn't really that difficult. All I had to do was register the name. At first, we decided, okay, what do you want to call the name? What is the name that you wanted to call this new dance group? And I can't remember now who gave that suggestion. They wanted to call it Folklorico Filipino Canada. So I said, well, that sounds like a good name.
In the mid-70s, there was, aside from the Saturday Night Fever, there was the beginning of multiculturalism, and I wanted to be part of it. I am very proud to represent my country.
Just imagine putting on fantastic shows with no money and hardly any costumes. And we think we're having a hard time today.
One of our challenges at that time was trying to build our costumes and props. There was about 15 of us, I think, at that time. $20 go a long way in the early 70s. So we contributed $20 each. We had one set of costume made. One of my roommates was a dressmaker. So we saved that way. She didn't charge us for her labor. All we did was buy the materials.
We started with borrowing costume from the, they call the Association Rizaliana. It's the old members of the old matured ladies in Toronto at that time. We budgeted ourselves in terms of our membership fee, and then we did some fundraising like caroling.
Folklorico remains a local dance group until 1976, when FFC is asked to dance on a university campus in St. John's, Newfoundland.
I bet all the dancers were feeling pretty special, being invited to perform for the first time in another province.
Our trip to St. John was our first out-of-town trip for Folklorico. That was in 1976. So we were also excited because this is the first time we were invited to perform out of Toronto.
The enthusiasm finally came when we already have the agreement, signed the agreement that we are really going to Newfoundland.
We have to shoulder our own airfare, and the organizer in St. John said, don't worry, when you get here, you will be housed with the different families and you don't have to worry. It was just actually a weekend.
We were delayed because of the fog. Instead of landing to St. John, we landed in Gander. And from Gander, they took us by bus to St. John.
But when we saw the lobster that was waiting for us, there was 3 huge pile of lobster in the tables because they were really welcoming us.
In 1977, as the group grows stronger, Folklorico is contracted to perform for Caravan, one of the first and biggest multicultural events in Toronto.
Folklorico performed the Caravan of 1977 because there was a great mishap. But Folklorico was able to deliver, and it was a very sleek presentation that they did.
What was really nice with Caravan is they developed passports to go to different pavilions or different countries. So it was like in a dream world because different countries in Toronto, it was like United Nations in a way. And carrying a passport which is being stamped in every pavilion was really, to me, was very exciting, and I'm sure was shared by a lot of people.
1977 also sees the birth of the first Folklorico baby, Deirdre DeVillen, daughter of Boy and Nancy DeVillen. Deirdre remembers her early years growing up in the Folklorico culture.
My early memories of Folklorico were a lot of parties. They were a small group, and because they were still just starting, they didn't really have a rehearsal space, so pretty much every weekend they would rehearse and practice in our basement. There was always, I remember, drinking and just dancing and lots of food and just a really good time.
The early 1980s bring Folklorico good fortune. Invitations to perform multiply, and the group continues to grow, steadily bringing in new faces.
My first role joining in 1982, I was learning the basic folk dance. I was a performing artist, and my role was just plainly get in, get your shoes, get your costume, and dance.
As new talents start to settle in, the group decides to venture into a full 2-hour concert.
Our community was quite proud that we were showcasing something that is more than just dance, more than just songs. We were showcasing our lives, the Filipino life. We wanted to have storylines onto the production. So we started coming up with scripts. We would stay up until 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning trying to brainstorm some scripts. And then we would write and we would come up with, oh, picture this, coming down the mountains, and here's the praise.
Well, Wendy was the secretary at the time and also a dancer. So we were young then. And a lot of guys like Wendy. And this is how we choose Wendy to dance certain solo dances because she's one of the prettiest girls.
Folklorico is not all about dancing, though. Most members also view their involvement as an opportunity to socialize in a very Filipino way.
We love to eat. When we work, we have to have food. We eat and then we work and then we work and then we eat, and sooner or later when it was time to perform, and of course our wishful thinking is always that our costumes will be just as small and nice on stage and whatnot. Well, we try our costumes. We'll never ever know that we've gained so much weight until we try on our costumes and it doesn't fit. So we end up making sure that we have these big pins, like really big, the biggest ones that you can get, and we make sure that we pin the back of our costumes just to make sure that they don't bust open while we actually do our dances, most especially the bamboo dance. You got to make sure that you're all pinned up or else, things happen, right?
Expo 86 was the longest trip that Folklorico had ever made. That was to Vancouver, and some of us remember.
Expo 1986 is also one of the most exciting trips that I took with Folklorico.
I considered that Expo 86 as the highlight of my dance involvement with the group.
We were all just in cloud nine.
The grant from Ontario was used to go to Expo 86, and we also had to do some fundraising.
And it was successful. And we also tried to sell some chocolates to be able to gain more money.
The crowd, we always have a full house in the evening when we have our shows, although it was cold because the pavilion was facing the lake. So in October, that was quite cold already, and we were dancing, and with Filipino folk dancing, most of the time we are barefoot. So our feet was really getting cold when we do the Igorot numbers.
We had a visit from this person who was just rumbling and bumbling about how great the dance is, and he was very much impressed.
We were actually invited by this very prominent restaurateur, Umberto Menghi.
Actually, he sent a bottle of champagne first in the dressing room before that with the invitation saying, I wanted your dance group to come to my restaurant.
So just because we were tired of eating roast beef almost on a daily basis, we took the offer to be in a restaurant.
He's famous. I know he's famous because I saw him in television and I saw him in news magazines.
Oh my God, we didn't even know that. We are in the presence of a very famous person. So of course I went back and started to ask this Umberto about the TV show, and he was impressed because I guess he thought we also knew about the show in Toronto. And so poured all the drinks, and we were drinking and eating the whole night. And as we forgot about the performance the following day, which of course was a little bit of a disaster. The following day, I had to do the bamboo dance, the tinikling, and it was one of the most painful performances in my life. Having to jump and being caught every single time between the bamboos I thought I was singing Umberto, Umberto.
Expo 86 turns out to be very special for one of the group's core dancers.
Expo 1986 is when I celebrated my 40th birthday.
Having to do a lot of performances, we actually had to surprise her with a birthday cake that we bought in the local Filipino bakery, which is Goldilocks. And we bought the best cake, which was a mango mousse cake.
I didn't even know about it, but the members of the dance group find ways of getting this cake inside the dressing room.
Of course, it was in the backstage for a long period of time. So when we had the surprise, the cake was kind of, at that time, was, I guess, tired of waiting all these hours. So it was on its, actually, was on its way melting down. So we had to, just have to have an ice cream cake as opposed to having a cake. But nevertheless, it was a very important date to remember, because one of the members had a 40th birthday celebration in the backstage like the real artists.
At home, Folklorico performs more than ever and wins Brampton's Carabram's Best Entertainment Award 5 years in a row.
Carabram was for Brampton, but it's Caravan for Toronto.
It was actually in late 80s, and we were there for 5 years.
And it's the multicultural celebration during the summer months. You go from one pavilion to another. They sell passports so that you could go into these different pavilions, and they show traditional dances. You taste their food. There's always a competition among the different sites as to which one is the best pavilion in terms of decoration, in terms of entertainment.
And for 5 consecutive years, we were performing there, and we were awarded the best performance every single year that we did it.
Many people can credit Folklorico for finding that special someone in their life. Let's see what some of them have to say.
I have quite a few of my co-dancers at that time too who met in Folklorico and have gotten married. Deirdre's mom, who is already what I call a second generation Folklorico, her mom and dad are the first actually Folklorico couple who got married.
We met a lot of people, and in the course of a lot of social events, that's where I met my husband.
In the early 1990s, the existence of the group is challenged. Folklorico is now over 15 years old. Many dancers married in the late 1980s and have moved on, while others are now lacking interest to perform. Enthusiasm is no longer there.
How devastating to see the group almost disappear.
The 1990s was a difficult time for Folklorico because a lot of our members were maturing.
Come to think of it, we've been existing for so many years, and some of the members are getting married, and some of the members are retiring and want to do more besides folk dancing.
In 1993, when Folklorico was about to re-establish or reorganize, we had only 7 dancers left.
Yeah, there were times when we had to do really small shows. We were probably left with, in total, we had maybe at most 4 guys, 6 girls, and we would have to make do with what we had. We did. We still put on good shows, I think.
As the turnover was happening, I don't think we were quick enough to make sure that, a new set of people would be able to carry forward.
As Folklorico struggles through these difficult times, Chris Paksisihan, a 10-year veteran FFC dancer, dies at the age of 29. The group is devastated.
I remember Chris joined the group when he was only 19.
He made our Christmas parties so lively because we usually do, during our Christmas parties, we usually try to have our own program where we showcase the talents, not folk dancing talents, but more like some other form of dancing or some other form of singing. And he always seems to come up with the most outrageous costume or the most outrageous performances.
He's one of the most talented person actually, in terms of dancing.
I would never ever forget him, and it's just unfortunate that he died at a very tender age.
It isn't until 1993 that FFC finally reinvents itself by changing its bylaws, its officers, and its repertoire. Today, group members still refer to this difficult period as the rebirth of Folklorico.
We decided to reorganize. We decided to re-administer Folklorico. Folklorico does not have much to offer at that time, so we requested people from the former dancers, the former choreographers, to rejoin Folklorico.
We brought back Cecile Hernandez and Norreiro de Balado. They became our resident choreographer. Bobby Gabat became the production administrator, which is basically the equivalent of the artistic director. Odi Arena became our financial officer. Paul Arena, my husband, still remained as the musical and technical director of the crew.
The rebirth of Folklorico truly coincided with the joining of second-generation Filipinos, an interesting shift for the group.
First joining, it was a little bit intimidating. I was one of the youngest people there, and I knew that a lot of the dancers had previous dance background, whether from the Philippines or already here, and a lot of them had been dancing for many years. And I was coming in with absolutely no dance experience at all. So I felt a little bit intimidated, but they were very welcoming. I think at the time, they really were looking for fresh faces, new group of dancers, and they were very welcoming to us. So it wasn't too hard trying to mix in with them. But at the same time, there was a division because they were a lot older, and we were the first set of second-generation Filipinos. Everybody else was either born in the Philippines. Actually, yeah, they were all born in the Philippines. So we were the first group of dancers that were actually born in Canada.
Under Wendy's leadership, the group reaches new heights. Also, with the help of Cecile Hernandez, Folklorico becomes a member of COF, an international folk dance organization.
In 1993, I was challenged by a good friend of mine in Montreal to say, you have a dance company in Toronto that may actually be a good dance company to send to Poland.
The very first trip to Poland and the Ukraine was very exciting for Folklorico.
They knew at that point that we had not gone overseas. So they had challenged me to go and get this dance company together, be strong enough for a world, dance competition.
The relationship with COF offers new opportunities to travel in the years that follow. Dancers now deliver performances internationally, one of them at Disney World in Orlando.
It was our first time where we had a villa to stay in, and we had our own bus given to us by Disney. We felt like rock stars, pretty much. And we just had a really good time. It was a good location, and we were actually, we felt proud to be dancing for Disney World. I mean, I think it's a major feat to be able to dance on a Disney World stage. So just doing that alone, even if we just went there and performed once, would have been enough for us. But we got to do it every day for a week. So it was an awesome experience. It was an honor, actually, to dance there.
It was quite hectic for me as a choreographer doing France and Spain because we had to adjust our performances all the time. We could do 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 1 hour, an hour and a half to 2 hour show. And we would never know what we're going to be performing until we reach the destination.
One of our tour guides, who we became really close friends with, came to Canada to visit us again because he fell in love with the group so much. And that would be one of the highlights, is when we first met somebody who we influenced in a way for them to come all the way to Canada just to hang out with us again. It just showed how much Folklorico as a group influences others.
Our trip to Mexico was a lot of fun, and I remember there were so many highlights with that trip. And the most important or the most memorable highlight that I remember is a night in Monterey, And it was after a performance, it was a night performance outdoors, and all of the dancers after the performance were hanging out backstage. We still had our costumes on, we were with the Colombian dancers, and all of a sudden salsa music just came out, and Folklorico loves salsa. Like, we've been dancing salsa for a very long time. So we were starting to dance salsa, and then the Colombians saw us dancing salsa, and they were so surprised that we were so talented. So all of us just started dancing together, and it was so much fun.
Every trip that we go on, Folklorico tours that we go on, the girls have eye candies, we like to call them, and the guys have eye candies. And what eye candies are in Folklorico, we spot a girl or a guy that we like on the trip from other groups, and we just look at them. Most of the tour, just look, there's my eye candy. One of the eye candies for Portugal was actually Paz's eye candy, who worked there and later on became my eye candy.
One thing that Folklorico does, a tradition that Folklorico does, is actually initiate new members coming their first time on an overseas trip. So we knew that we were all going to be, all the new members were going to be initiated at one point of the trip. And on the last day, I still haven't got initiated. So I was like, okay, good, I'm off the hook. But I actually wasn't. And then there's these 3 guys. They picked 3 guys, one from Turkey, one from Poland, and one guy from the Portugal group. And they were standing on these elevated steps, and they had this string tied around their waist, and at the end of the string, right in front of their crotch, was an apple. So what my initiation was to have my hands tied behind my back and eat the apple hanging from their waist. So that was really embarrassing, but it was fun.
I think we're all really drawn to traveling in Folklorico because that's when we all get to bond and we all get to learn more about each other, and we do initiations and stuff like that, and we spend nights together where we can't sleep, and we just get to know each other very well, who's not a morning person, or who snores so loud and who doesn't. And that, when you go out there with a group of people, everyone's a stranger to you, and these people are the only people you know. So you learn to depend on each other, but at the same time be independent.
Traveling with Folklorico is awesome. We've been to many places. I'm sure you've heard them before. This is the run. France, Spain, Poland, Ukraine, Mexico, Estonia. Last year was Portugal, and this year's Italy.
I'll take a picture of you guys. I'm really excited since it's my first trip, and I'm looking forward to experiencing how it is with the group. I've heard a lot of stories about, it's a lot of fun.
I'm excited. I'm really excited to see Rome, and where else are we going? Venice. And gondolas. And lots of pasta. Lots of pasta. I'm gonna gain weight.
Seems like that. Right now there's still a lot of luggage, as you can see, and this is the worst part of it all.
Passing the custom.
It's okay. We got Ron this trip.
Yeah,
he did.
I'm back.
He hasn't come in so long.
Last trip he went to was
98.
98.
Spain and France.
Yeah.
Hey, Camera, did you?
No, I'm not saying anything, because I might cry.
Oh, she's gonna cry because she just got
leaving
married.
my husband.
Yeah, for 2 weeks.
And she's gonna be apart from Jason for 3 weeks. I know. I'm gonna cry.
But she has me, Jason. Don't worry about it. She's okay.
I'm excited. Can't wait. Going on the plane soon. What can you wait for? Italy.
As an integral part of the new Folklorico mandate, the group also offers concerts such as Paksibol in 1994 and Pakdiriwang in 1996.
Paksibol was the start of the new Folklorico. Cecilia and I created a huge repertoire that would place Folklorico in the front pages of the Philippine newspapers. That was the start of a new Folklorico to us. Pagdiriwang was a little bit more of a celebration of all the accomplishment we've already established and the accolades that Folklorico was able to receive during the years that we've been performing.
It was my first Tinikling performance in Canada, because I danced it in Poland, my first tour, and then when I came back, it was my first performance in front of family and friends. So I was pretty nervous, but I pulled through it, and I'm pretty proud of it. And I'm stuck with it. I'm a permanent Tinapling dancer.
I've always been a creative person, and everybody knows, all the dancers and the senior staff, they all know I keep journals, all types of journals, and there's like 7 that you can find in my house, and they're all filled with ideas, potential productions that I could do in the future, and they're detailed, most of them, right to the point where it's already casted, and I have choreographed pieces and certain costumes and stuff too. So a little thrill I get is when I'm able to turn that into reality.
And he does, in 2001 with Simpatica, a full 2-hour show choreographed by Lee Cacalda.
Simpatica was my baby. It was my first exercise in taking all those rough drafts and all these crazy ideas on paper and these various sketchbooks and putting it to reality. Simpatica. You can ask any of the dancers. I was not so happy a choreographer from the month leading up to and including the night of. I hated the end result at the time. In retrospect, seeing the video, I love it. I put a lot of pressure on all the dancers, almost too much. Maybe I was trying too hard.
In May 2000, Frederic Legrand, a French immigrant married to a Filipino, watches Folklorico perform at a Toronto fundraising party. The group immediately catches his interest.
It was, from there on, really a natural fit. It just clicked, and I went, well, I have a marketing background. There seems to be a need for marketing of this group. I think I can do it.
Frederick rapidly sees that FFC needs tools to market itself and immediately revamps the group's portfolio.
I was really proud of myself because I did that really within my first month with Folklorico. I was able to deliver and, most importantly, build a certain degree of credibility in the group, which I think was important being a non-Filipino.
It was this cool union, and we were all dreaming big things, and Frederick was there to help make things happen. I was there to dream something up, and he backed it up, and he found the support and the cash to keep it going.
And when he proved himself to Folklorico, Folklorico was very ecstatic about it. He was welcomed.
I learned that he had a vision for Folklorico, being in control of the marketing aspect of the administration staff.
I think he gave us new direction.
During his stay as a marketing director, he will also initiate concerts and fundraising events, and finally arrange a Trillium Foundation grant, the largest ever awarded to the dance troupe.
Now, one may ask, what kind of personal satisfaction do you get from being with FFC? Let's hear the voices of our members.
Showing off your skills, showing off your music, showcasing your dances. You have to be proud to be Filipino. When you have such an accomplishment, such an appreciation from the audience, it's a wonderful feeling.
My career started to take me and pull me in all these different directions, so I kind of had to take a break from Folklorico. And I still keep in contact with some of the members in the group, and they're like, yeah, I should come to a practice again. And I came back, and I'm like, this is why I love it here.
Before Folklorico, we were so timid and shy.
Really shy.
So shy. And Folklorico gave us, it just made us come out of our shell. And I can remember my first performance. And from that performance, from that day, it allowed me to discover my talent. So that gave me the confidence and allowed me to just know that no one else can take that away from me.
I love to dance. I go to work and I go to school during the year. That's all I do. And I just wait for that Saturday and Sunday for our performances and our practice. And I just love it. I love to dance.
I love it. Before you go on stage, especially if it's a big performance, you feel really, really nervous. You have that butterflies in your stomach and you feel like you have to go to the washroom, you can't go on stage. But then once you go on stage, you just remember everything you have to do and you just go for it. You perform not just for the people in front of you, but the people right at the very end of the row. And so afterwards, when everyone's clapping and, that's, I don't know, it's really, I love it.
The satisfaction I get in staying with Folklorico and having been with Folklorico for all these years is the fact that I've seen most kids grow into beautiful human beings. They start being awkward, they're unsure of themselves, they don't really know how to express themselves, no confidence whatsoever. And then when you teach them movements, and then they realize that their body is beautiful, and then they're able to perform with other kids and come up with beautiful dances and beautiful performances, somehow it opens up their personality.
The thing that really works for Folklorico is the bond, the really strong connection and bond that all of us share. And whenever a new recruit comes in and they have this really bubbly personality, or you can tell that they're very carefree, we say they have a Folklorico personality.
Yeah. They're the ones who click easier with us.
So it's that bond and that sense of, I guess, family that really keeps us together and keeps Folklorico going on.
Most young people would have chosen hip-hop or rap or whatever the trend was in the 70s. So why Philippine folklore?
The motivation that I get to keep continuing with FFC is partly the social aspect, because I do consider them as my second family, but it's also because of the Filipino community. For us to be involved in it is very important, because a lot of youths in Canada don't really embrace their culture, so it gives us a sense of fulfillment to teach, the younger Filipinos that we do have a culture.
What keeps me dancing in Folklorico is the love of the culture. I think our culture is beautiful and has an extreme amount of variety and beauty and grace, and I love depicting that on stage.
I like the sense of belonging to a group that when we go out there, people are so receptive to us and they love us so much, and it makes me feel good to say, yes, I'm a part of that, and yes, I had something to do with that.
The folk dancing aspect of our culture has been influenced by the Chinese traditions, by the Muslim traditions, as well as the Spaniards. It gives us the ability to show just the diversity of the Filipino culture.
I enjoy the fact that Folklorico is not just a Filipino cultural dance group, but we're also known to be performing as Latin dancers, hip-hop, everything, ballroom, we can do everything.
As dancers, we all know too well how important our parents are in the life of Folklorico. If it wasn't for my mom taking me to practice, I don't think I'd be as involved as I am today. We'd like to give a big thank you to all the Folklorico parents and to those who have given their time to FFC, without whom we would not have prospered for 30 years.
Parents are very important. They play a very important role for Folklorico. They are the backbone of the organization. Without the parents, Folklorico will not survive.
Jojo, Bobby, Odie, they may not be parents, but they are the mothers of these little children, or now adults, young adults. Without them, I don't know what we would do.
They're not the face of Folklorico, but they are the people who mend our costumes, wash our clothes, give us food, make sure we're fed, make sure we're rested. All the little things that parents do.
I think once you become a Folklorico member, you're always a Folklorico member. It's just being part of the family, and you always come back to your family.
The people that are involved in the group that aren't parents of dancers, I still consider parents. For example, Tito Jojo, he's I consider him like a father figure to me. Bobby is more like a mother figure to me.
Being part of Folklorico is being part of a one big happy family.
I grew up with a small family, actually. Just me and my mom. Once I got introduced to Folklorico, I was introduced to brothers, sisters, aunts and uncles that I never had, so they are my family.
I feel Folklorico is my family. Yeah, I have 100 moms, 40 brothers and sisters, but there's only one Tita Delor.
Like, I've formed so many friendships, and so many of the people are like brothers and sisters to me. It's a family to me. It's my second family.
Okay, what is this place?
It's not Monterey.
It's San Pedro Octacpan.
June 2003 brings sadness and a deep sense of loss to the lives of FFC members. Puring Gamez, mother of Paz and treasurer of Folklorico, dies unexpectedly, leaving everyone in shock.
My mom was in Folklorico as long as I was, until when she passed away last year. But she would always come to practice every time I go to practice.
She did a lot for the group. She wanted to help as much as she could, which she did. She did financials, and she wanted to help backstage, and she wanted to help, on tours, maintaining costumes. Whatever she could do to help, she would do it. And you didn't even have to ask her. And that's what made her like a second mom to a lot of us. I really miss her.
We always value the contribution of the parents to the group. And when you have someone like that who is quiet, who is so quiet, but she's always there. She will always be there when we need her.
Her passing affected the group greatly. She was not so outspoken, not really out there, not really loud, but she did a lot. And it felt like losing a family member.
Well, I grew close to Tita Puring because her daughter is one of my best friends. So the time when she passed was like an eye-opener, I think, for the group.
She helped in fundraising, ticket sales, just bringing food for practices for all the dancers.
I just remember the last time was when I went to her house for Paz's birthday, and it was just me there, and Pering brought a cake, and that was, I think, the last memorable time that I spent with her before she left. But I think her passing really brought the group together.
Folklorico helps us connect to our Filipino roots. So it's not uncommon for us to be asked, do you define yourself as a Filipino or a Canadian? I'll go for, I don't know.
I would never ever abandon my Filipino heritage just because I live in Canada. On the other hand, I have assimilated a lot of Canadian way of thinking and way of life, but both, for me, they're both important to me, and that will be part of my identity and existence.
I'm half Bajan, half Filipino. My dad's from Barbados and my mother's from the Philippines. I have to say that I'm a Bajan Filipino Canadian.
Actually, I would define myself as a Filipino, more of a Filipino, because I'm brought up within the Filipino culture.
I do define myself as a Canadian because this is where I live and this is the place I call home.
I have a Filipino way of thinking, Filipino at heart, but when I travel, I'm Canadian.
I'm very proud to be a Canadian with Filipino ancestry.
Reflecting on the past 30 years, here are some wishes for Folklorico Filipino Canada.
We found the passion, and that's just what kept it going on. And what we're afraid of and our worry is that the younger generation won't have as much passion as us. So that's what we're searching for right now, new recruits to have that dedication.
There's only so much that I've learned that I'm able to pass on and teach everyone else. So I'm running into a wall. So there's only so much I can recycle and re-choreograph the Nicklane, for example. But that's where we need to bring in new talent or older minds.
I remember just a few weeks back we went to Oshawa, as we usually do every year. And they had a few albums from the group from past shows. And every album looked exactly the same. Same dances, same costumes, just different dancers. So as an improvement, I'd like to see a new repertoire and brighter costumes, better costumes.
We have a strong group, although we could have an even stronger one if some of the dancers put a little bit more effort into the group. Not only in terms of their dancing ability, but actually stepping up and taking more of a leadership role.
I would like to see strength and in the administration, because I find that there is a good core of administrative people, and they're the driving force, and they're very strong, don't get me wrong, but I'd like very much for the senior dancers to take ownership of most of those administrative functions going forward. It's vital for their succession. In any organization, there has to be that mentoring.
Audiences around the world have witnessed our folklorical spirit. Let's have some of our members describe what it means to them.
Beautiful, confident, and friendly, all open, and it's something you may not just be recruited based on that. It's something you develop when you're with Folklorico.
It's charisma, it's a certain magic that comes out of the group and of what it does.
The Folklorico spirit for me is artistic excellence. As simple as that.
Folklorico Filipino Canada thanks you for joining us on this 30-year journey. And now, here is our message to you.
Come out and learn more about who you are and what you are, because there's only good things.
I want to be remembered as the teacher.
We've worked very hard over the last few years, and I hope they're proud.
I really encourage everyone to
embrace who they are, because for us, Folklorico has given us a really strong sense of identity.
Ikaw ba'y nalulungkot, naiinip, nababagot?
Ikaw ba'y napapagod, araw-gabi puro kayo?
Buhay mo ba'y walang saysay, walang sigla, walang kulay?
Bawat araw ba'y pareho, parang walang pagbabago?
Tara na, biyahe tayo, kasama ang pamilya, barkada at buong grupo, para mag-enjoy ng todo.
Halika, biyahe tayo, nang ating makita ang ganda ng Pilipinas, ang galing ng Pilipino. Napasyal ka na ba sa Intramuros at Luneta?
Palawan, Bigan at Batanes, Subic, Baguio at Rice Terraces.
Namasdan mo na ba ang mga binta ng Zamboanga,
Bulkang Tal,
Bulkang Mayon, Beach ng Boracay at La Union?
Tara na, biyahe tayo, mula Basco hanggang Ulo, nang makilala ng gusto ang ating kapwa Pilipino. Halika, biyahe tayo, nang ating makita ang ganda ng Pilipinas, ang galing ng Pilipino.
From city to city, 7,100 plus islas, sa mahal kong Pilipinas, Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao ating puntahan. Huwag maging dayuhan sa sariling bayan.
Nasubukan mo na bang mag-rapid sa pagsanghahan?
mag-diving sa Anilaw, mag-surfing sa Siargao.
Natikman mo na ba ang sisig ng Pampanga?
Duriang Davao, Bangus, Tagupan, Bicol Express at Lechong Balayan. Tara na, biyahe tayo,
nang makatulong kahit paano
sa pagunlad ng kabuhayan
ng ating mga kababayan. Halika, biyahe tayo, nang ating makita ang ganda ng Pilipinas, ang galing ng Pilipino. Nakisaya ka na ba sa pahiyas at maskara? Moriones at ati-atihan, sinulog at kadayawan.
Namyesta ka na ba sa Peña Francia, sa Naga? Umakyat sa Antipolo, nagsayaw sa Obando.
Tara na, biyahe tayo, upang ating matamo ligaya at pagkakaibigan, kaunlaran, kapayapaan. Halika, biyahe tayo, nang ating makita ang ganda ng Pilipinas, ang galing ng Pilipinas. Tara na, biyahe tayo, upang ating matamo ligaya at pagkakaibigan, kaunlaran, kapayapaan. Halika, biyahe tayo, nang ating makita ang ganda ng Pilipinas, ang galing